Welcome to Adventure Friday. All right, so I'm trying something a little bit different today. I wanted to do this email as a podcast style because I do have a paid subscription over on my Substack. So I just wanted to be able to give you a little bit of a preview of what that looks like, my style for having these discussions. And this was just an easy way to do the topic that I wanted to go over today. So today we are going to talk about what is in my hiking bag. So I feel like this is an area where people struggle. Some people don't realize that they need a hiking bag with things in it to keep them safe. Other people aren't sure what should be in the bag. Some of you aren't sure what's a necessity versus can live without. So that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to try to focus on one area at the same time. I kind of have my stuff strewn about me here. But we're going to start with the non-negotiables. So obviously you need your hiking bag. On that note, when you first start out, grabbing a backpack that you have laying around, as long as all the zippers are functional, that's okay. You can upgrade later. Just keep in mind, if you like what you're doing and you go to upgrade, try to pick the lightest bag possible. Make the functions make sense, but make sure that that bag is not overly heavy on its own, because when your bag is heavy and you're adding weight to it, you're just causing more fatigue. Your hiking bag should only be about 10% of your body weight. So I am an ounce counter for sure, because I don't want to carry around that much weight. I want to carry around the least amount as possible. So keep that in mind. Non-negotiables, a bivy or a Mylar bag. So, you're out, you get lost, you're in the rain, you're in the cold. That is going to save your life. Next up is going to be something like a life straw or the water tablets, so that you can disinfect your water as much as possible in case you have to use water from a source wherever you are, if you run out of water. And the next one is going to be your first aid kit. So I do have two separate bags. They're kind of like my first aid kit / safety kit. So I don't like most of the first aid kits at the store because they're not very complete and they're rather bulky. So I put together my own. I do feel like I could replenish some things, and some things are not in here because they are out of date. But what I did is I went into the school section and I got those like the pencil pouches that have the clear front on them, so that I can see what is in them without opening them. And my first one has a spray bottle, one of the travel spray bottles with hydrogen peroxide. I have a set of needles, and in my other one I have paracord that you can take it apart and use it for thread. There's some first aid antibiotic ointment. We also have what's called sportsman goo. So it's for insect bites, poison ivy, first aid, cuts and scrapes, dry cracked skin. It's a multi-use type of deal. I have bandages and gauze in here. I do have scissors for the paracord. There is tape, tweezers. Tweezers are your best friend, especially if you are in the desert and you ever get a cactus thorn stuck in your finger. Try not to get multiple. That's a bad situation. And then there is also liquid bandage. That is one of my absolute favorites, because what I would do is, if I get a cut out in the nature, I will clean it out with the hydrogen peroxide, get it dried off, and I'll make sure I get that liquid bandage on there, because that's going to keep dirt out of that wound. All right, so that is the first one. The second pouch is going to be a little bit gender specific, but also could be useful for other things. So I do have tampons in there, and I do have like underwear liner. Now, that is where it is somewhat gender specific. However, tampons are useful for multiple things. There is a story that I will share for another time of how a tampon saved my vehicle. But on that note, they can be used as what's called in the medical world pledgets. So they can actually be used for nosebleeds. So that might be a reason to have them handy. You could also potentially, like, this is not doctor advice. This is like your life is in dramatic danger and you're middle of nowhere advice. If you need to staunch a wound, that is another potential use for them. So again, not a professional. That's not a recommendation. That is again, your life is in danger. And you have no other options. I also have a little tool in here. It's like a handheld saw. It's foldable, but it's for like small little logs so that you can cut wood for a fire if needed. And then I do have asthma, so I have my inhaler in here, and I do have liquid Benadryl because I do have bee allergies. So, first aid / safety combo is definitely necessary. What's going to be in it is also going to be dependent upon you. Like I just said, I have asthma. That inhaler is necessary for me. I have allergies. That Benadryl is necessary for me. I really think everyone should have Benadryl just in case. And then I do have the multi-use paracord in one of them because it can be used for fishing line. There's a fire starter thread in there. And then you can also use it to sew up a wound if you had to, patch your bag, whatever you might need that thread for. All right. Other non-negotiable, make sure that you have water. So we did talk about if you needed to use a source of water, but really you just want to make sure that you have enough water with you in the first place. Let's backtrack for a moment. I have my inhaler. Make sure you have any medications that you might need. You don't have to take full bottles with you, but if you just have, actually what I like is contact cases, because contact cases are supposed to keep the fluid in the case, right? So they're waterproof. So you can get a little contact case, put exactly enough medication for like a day or two, just as an emergency backup. And that way you have that on you. It's not taking up a lot of space, and just put it somewhere easy to access. And I also have personally a bag, a little pouch. It's very colorful that I carry in my purse with me. It has my dual EpiPen and it has like an emergency like anaphylaxis type deal in there, little kit. That goes with me daily in my purse. And then when I go hiking, that gets moved over to my hiking bag. And everyone who goes with me knows what it looks like. They know where it is in my bag and they know what that little pouch looks like. So that's important too. So that anyone who is with you can help you if necessary. And what else for non-negotiables? So we got the water. Make sure that you have food. An important thing that I always stress is that it doesn't matter if you are hiking a mile versus 10 miles. Within a mile, you could have something tragic happen to you, and that mile suddenly becomes very, very long and difficult to get back to safety. So I see people who will walk by with a single water bottle and their keys, and that's just not safe. Can you do this and be just fine? Absolutely. Is the chance of something happening to you going to be relatively small on some of the trails that you're on? Sure. But you just don't know what's going to happen, and you do not want any of those things to happen to you where you may be your only source of being saved because someone may not be coming by. So you want to make sure that you are prepared because, again, anything can happen, and a mile turns into a very long distance if something catastrophic happens to you. So that is what I think is mostly the non-negotiables. Oh, a knife. Should always have a knife on you, some extra paracord. I'll attach to my bag. I like multi-use things because, again, it just makes your bag weigh less. So I have a whistle, it is a compass, and it also is a temperature gauge. So that's a nice combo. And then the bivy that I have, the bag that it's in, it actually has a whistle as well. So that there's a bonus. My knife is always on the outside of my bag for easy access. And then depending on where you are, something like bear mace, that might be a non-negotiable. Other things to protect yourself from animals. And I kind of feel this one's a non-negotiable for me is going to be the fact that I live in Pennsylvania where there are a lot of mosquitoes. So I do have mosquito repellent tab that hangs off of my bag. So is that absolutely necessary? No, but it is nice to not have mosquitoes buzzing in your ear. Technically it is a safety feature because you do have mosquito-borne diseases that are a potential: dengue, malaria, West Nile virus, yellow fever, Zika. So those are all potentials. So that's something to think about. So if you have an item that is somewhat of a safety feature and somewhat of a convenience, how much does it weigh? How much is it going to cost you to purchase it? And how bad off are you going to be without it? Those are the things to consider if you're on the fence line about putting something into your bag. And unfortunately, that is something that we have to think about because we can't carry every possible potential thing in our bag that we might need, right? So just something to keep in mind on that part. And then on the semi non-negotiable, you should definitely have, here we go, flashlight. Again, you don't know what's going to happen. You may go out at 6 o'clock in the morning and you get stuck and you do need a flashlight. So that's handy to have. Mine is a flashlight and a dual phone charger. I do feel like a phone charger is necessary. I know we're trying to get away from technology when we go outdoors, but again, you don't know what's going to happen, so you do need some sort of emergency contact. So I also make sure I have my phone cord with me. Next up is going to depend on where you are, and that is a pen to write with and money, preferably dollar bills. The reason for that is Arizona, for example, a lot of places are on an honor system, and you have to pay for being at whatever location you're at. So usually what happens is you pull into the parking lot, you look for the signpost, you go up to it, see how much it is to park for the day, usually like $7 or something. And there's little envelopes, and on the envelope you write your information, like your name. I think you put like your license plate number on there, and then you put the money in the envelope and you drop it in. You can get a fine if one of the rangers comes around, takes your either VIN number, your license plate number, or whatever that it asks you to put on that piece of paper, and things don't match up for the day. So that is a good reason to have exact change for those locations and a pen to be able to write on the little paper. Again, that's not everywhere. Here in Pennsylvania, I've not come across that yet because there's not a lot of national parks. It's more state forest. So that's going to be different location to location. Might not be something you ever deal with. And then on a personal level, I have, I'm trying to keep together in the categories here. Okay, so next on the in-between negotiable and you don't necessarily need it, I like having a windbreaker. It's just nice for those days that are warmer, but you might end up in the shade or say in a canyon that's going to be typically 10 degrees or so cooler. And then I also have a puffer, packable puffer. Of course, I don't carry that in the summer, but when it's a bit colder, I do like to take that with me. Let's see, what else do we have here? A lunch bag. So like I said, Make sure that you have snacks with you. I personally like to take a lunch, so I have a little lunch bag where I can put a small ice pack in it. And then I do have I'm not affiliated with any of these companies, I just like them. I have Scorched Earth microfiber towels. It folds up into a nice little netted bag that I can hang from the outside of my hiking bag. If you're out hiking in the cold, I do recommend gloves and making sure that you have an extra layer. Socks, you should definitely have an extra pair of socks in your bag in case you get them wet. And a fire starter knife combo. It's got paracord wrapped around the handle, and then like a little flint starter, fire starter. I have had matches in my bag at some point, waterproof matches. A lighter is a good thing to have, but remember, you don't want to rely on a lighter because if it's too cold, it will not function. So a lighter to me may be one of those things that it's not really necessary because it's not going to always be functionable. So it's not a great thing to rely on. So I might replace that with waterproof matches or a flint striker. And then you might want to have the little, I can't think of the name for them at the moment, but they're the little fire starters that are waterproof. So you're supposed to be able to start a fire even when it's raining. That is another good thing to have in your bag. There was one more thing that I wanted to tell you. All right, we'll move on. So personal items that are not necessary but are in my hiking bag. My DSLR Nikon. I love taking photos, and that is inside a dry bag. So it gives a little bit of an air cushion so that it's not banging around other stuff in my bag. And it also keeps it protected in case a water bottle happens to open inside. On my camera, I have swapped out the original lens cover for a covered lens cover. So Covered is the brand, and it is like a silicone cover. It is so much easier to deal with. I can squish it up in my hand and I actually hang on to it without dropping it. And just the way that it's shaped, I don't have to worry that if I do drop it, that I'm going to get any dirt in it and have it just be stuck in there and scratching up my lens. So that one is a non-negotiable for me personally, just because it makes photography life so much easier on the trail. And to that statement, I also have my cotton over-the-shoulder camera holder. That has been a life changer. So I had been walking around with my camera either in my hand or bouncing back and forth on me with the strap around my neck. That was just so uncomfortable. So my boyfriend got me the cotton strap over the shoulder. Absolutely love it. You do have to be careful because the camera can slide out of it if you lean too far forward. So I do put my camera strap like clipped into it. So if that happens, it's still attached to me if it drops out. I think that's it. I think those are the things. I don't carry a lot of extras because I don't want that weight in my bag. So again, 10% of your body weight. You do not want your bag to be any heavier than that. And the lighter the possible, the better, because that means less fatigue. The only time that weight gets added to my bag is if it's cold and I'm taking off layers to put in my bag, or if I have my dog with me. So when I hike with my dog, I'm going to have her water bowl, I'm going to have extra water, I'll have food for her and maybe some treats. So that's something that you have to take account as well if you're taking an animal with you, like what do they need? Also remember, you can have something happen when you're on the trail with your animal. So do you have medicine for them if they need it? Another non-negotiable for me when I have my dog with me is going to be my Fido Airlift, I think it's called. It's by Fido, and it's a device where you slip it, like each paw goes into a different hole, and it's made out of like, it feels like dry bag material, but it's super strong. and you just kind of haul the dog up with it, and you can strap them over your back, and it makes it so much easier to get them out of a situation, say if they broke their leg or something like that, or you just need to quickly carry them out. So that's another non-negotiable for me. It's especially good just to have it on hand at home as well, because it makes me capable of picking my dog up if she's hurt and I need to get her somewhere, because I don't have a lot of upper body strength, but it makes that a capable thing for me. So that is a non-negotiable if I have her with me. I think that is about it. I don't think I missed anything. I may have. My bag has changed so many times, and your bag is going to change as you grow and the different terrain that you are on. I went from hiking the desert to being out here in the forest. I had to learn how to switch up for things like ticks and such. And then also your day bag versus your longer hiking bag to if you want to do backpacking. So those are 3 different styles happening there. Maybe your day bag is just for like a mile hike, and your mid bag is you hiking a mile plus, and then you're backpacking when you're going to do a backpacking trip. I also like to make sure that I have relatively the same items for kayaking. That changes a little bit, but in order to make sure that I am safe doing both things, I just have duplicate sets. I tried to move stuff back and forth when I didn't have as much money to purchase items, but I was forgetting things, and that's not a good scenario to not have things that you may need. So I did create different sets for that. And then if I'm camping, my hiking bag comes with me. So that's just automatically a given that I'm going to have my necessities with me. Extra things come on camping trips, of course. I'll do another either email or a podcast about that. But that's another thing to think about when you're trying to plan for what kind of gear you're looking for. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. This is what the podcasts are like. It's just kind of an in-depth discussion, kind of a more of a chatty conversation and me rambling on. But that is what the podcasts are. And I go into more adventure stuff, and also I'll still touch on gardening there as well. If you are on my email list and not Substack, feel free to shoot me a message back. Let me know if you want to hear one versus the other, outdoor adventure versus gardening, because I can segment that email for you so that you only get what you want to listen to. I can't really do the same thing on Substack, but hit reply or leave a comment. And again, thank you for listening.